Okay, hello again, everybody. This is Kill2. I'm here with Trisbeck. We are waiting for a match to start between Scooty Puff Jr. Alliance, apparently Morris Me He stand-ins, and the Blanket Men, apparently some Atlas members. I don't really care about all that political stuff. Let's talk about ships. Scooty Puff Jr. has brought 2 Dominics, 1 Vulture, 2 Proteus, an Oneros, and an Iteron 5.
The Blanket Men have 2 Drakes, 2 Tengus, a Nighthawk, a Stiletto, a Jaguar, and another Stiletto.
And another Nighthawk. They have 2 of almost everything, except for the
They
Jaguar.
do have 2 Nighthawks.
I'd like to throw in, we have about 1 minute, a little less than 1 minute for the match to start, but I think it's really bizarre there's a Vulture with 2 Proteus and Oneros and 2 Dominics. You could run Dominics with a shield tank and then use a Vulture. You could run Oneros with the rest of the ships and run armor tanks, but it's very strange to have the Oneros and the Vulture in the same fight. So
Yeah,
we'll see how that works out. The ranges are a little split. They weren't close to each other this time. All of the Blanket Men team warped to long range, and all of the Scooty Puff Jr. team warped to 0, so there'll be a little bit of range between them, and the match is underway now.
And right at the beginning, the entire Scooty Puff team putting armor rep drones on that Oneros. And that Oneros getting shot up pretty badly by the Blanket Men team. It's at about half armor. It's also being shield repped. It's coming back though. It's holding on, but it looks like they can't tank it enough to nullify this Blanket Men DPS. And the Scooty Puff Oneros is down. There's no fire on the Blanket Men team really. Their Jaguar's taking a tiny bit of shield damage, but nothing significant. And the Scooty Puff Iteron now into armor.
Yeah, Iteron taking damage, 50% armor, so the Blanket Men team hasn't really taken any damage whatsoever. The Jaguar is at about 90% shields. Iteron down now. This is just crazy, by the way. The Vulture is running armor hardeners. The Oneros had only shield maintenance bots on it and no armor tank to speak of, from what I could tell. The Iteron 5 had armor hardeners active on it, and the Blanket Men team has now moved all their DPS to the Scooty Puff Jr. Proteus. The first Proteus piloted by Marcel Khan. It's at about 80% armor at this point.
Yeah, that Vulture is running armor. That's very strange. The Oneros did have at least 1 flight of light armor drones, but yeah, that's not very much tanking ability. And the Proteus now at low armor. It doesn't appear to be running any sort of hardeners or anything right now, and it's dipping into structure, and it gets insta-popped through structure. So that's 1 Proteus down for the Scooty Puff team.
Yeah, the second Proteus is running armor hardeners. I haven't seen a local rep yet, but that's going to be the next target for the Blanket Men. The first one, I didn't see any tank mods active whatsoever, and whatever shield maintenance bots were running on the Oneros are now dead or inactive, so there are none of those either. The second Proteus now at about 50% armor. It looks like the Scooty Puff Jr. team has gotten a little bit of DPS onto one of the Blanket Men Drakes. It's at about 60% shield, but seems to be holding fine. That Proteus now at about 10% armor left, yeah, 10% armor left.
Yeah, there's a cloud of combat drones around that Proteus, and it has just gone down. Still no damage to speak of on the Blanket Men team. They have their entire starting lineup still on the field. Interesting to see who they go after next on the Scooty Puff team.
The Blanket Men team definitely running, I believe, Damps. I see Ewar coming in from all the Blanket Men ships. I'm looking at this Drake that's taking damage on the Blanket Men 2 to try and see if one of the Tengus is possibly a logistic set, but I don't see any incoming shield maintenance, so probably both Tengus are either Ewar or full DPS and tank. The Drake still at about 60% shields. He takes a little damage every now and then, but the Stilettos of the Blanket Men seem to have the Dominics and Vulture that are remaining for Scooty Puff Jr. locked down pretty good. And one of those Dominics now at about 60% armor remaining. He's taking pretty heavy damage from the missile fire here from this Kaldar team.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if those Tengus are actually fit maybe with ECM, because there was no damage coming from the Scooty Puff team, which is kind of a shame to see.
Yeah, and we know We know these stilettos have room for a little E-War as well, maybe dampeners just to keep the cycles in between longer. And these Dominics are running armor tanks. I see armor hardeners, and it's taking a long time to get them through armor, so I still can't imagine why they brought a Vulture. Why not bring a Damnation? Why not bring a ship that does something other than ganglinks? Anyway, this Dominic's now about to enter structure. That's all that's left for Scooty Puff Jr. 2 Dominics, 1 Vulture. That Dominic's now in structure. He'll be going down by the time I'm done telling you about the Blanket Men team, which still has 2 Tengus, 2 Nighthawks, 2 Drakes, 2 Stilettos, and 1 Jaguar left.
And that Dominic's went down. Yeah, the Vulture is really... The Scooty Puff team made sense except for that Vulture, which was a rather baffling choice. May have been a skill limitation or something. Blanket Man going after that second Dominic's on Scooty Puff, and it is dropping quickly into armor now, and it's getting hammered by the entire team. There's a lot of missiles in the air, a lot of drones. At about half armor now on that Dominic's. It's got a buffer on it, maybe local tanking, but it's not going to be enough to save it. The Vulture will be next. That Dominic's now dropping into about 25% armor, still going down. Still no fire on the Blanket Men team, really.
What was I going to say? I had something. Dominic's now entering structure. He'll be going down shortly. I noticed the Stilettos of the Blanket Men team are running target painters and sensor boosters. That Dominic's now dead, only the Vulture left. I noticed the Drake that was called as the primary target from the Scooty Puff Jr. team, the Drake is on the Blanket Men team, was running smart bombs. So any drones that were able to make it out on auto aggro, which may have been what was causing the damage, are now dead. So the damage has totally stopped, and he's recovered to 80% shields or so. He's running an invuln. So I don't see any dampeners coming off the Drakes. We've talked about their E-War capacity, and I don't see it being used for that. Shield's disappearing rapidly on the Vulture, but as we said, he's armor tanked, although the armor's disappearing rapidly too. He's at about 40% armor now.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to get a stupendous armor tank out of any Keldari ship, really. And yeah, he's getting shot down very quickly. Almost into structure now. Yeah, last of his armor just disappeared, and they are hammering through his structure now. He will be down momentarily in a very convincing win for the Blanket Men team. They didn't lose a single ship. And that Vulture sitting about half structure now. Looks like there may have been a reload going on because the missiles seem to have stopped momentarily from the Blanket Men team.
I don't know whether to say that was a really strong setup by the Blanket Men or just a really terrible one by Scooty Puff Jr., but either way, a very convincing win. And with that, we'll go back to Soundwave.